fish worshippers! Welcome to Temple Poseidon. That's what Alan and I call our fish room, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to talk to you today about this 360 Marineland canister filter. You can see the top kind of looks like this. Now they don't make this particular model anymore, they've upgraded it, but you may come across one of these at your local fish club auction or at one of the annual auctions, or somebody might be selling one with a tank that you pick up on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. So there's a couple of things that you might want to keep in mind when you use one of these. Now there's nothing bad about any particular filter. It's not like one's terrible and another one's the best. They've all got their pluses and minuses. And the first thing about this filter that you need to know is that the motor is on top. And that is beneficial, which it sits on top like this. But anyway, that is beneficial for filters that have sand, because if the sand gets into the filter, it's going to be caught by the media or settle in the bottom of the filter base, and it will never go up through your impeller, or very rarely go up through your impeller. The other thing about a filter with the motor on top is that it might not be good if you've got an aquarium that's sitting on your floor or very close to your floor, and you have to have the filter right next to the aquarium. The problem I've had is that it just doesn't, because the motor's on top, the motor is close to the top of the aquarium, and now you don't have the siphon for the water falling, or siphoning out of the aquarium and falling into the filter. And so then the motor doesn't have that assistance to help pump it back to the aquarium. So if you have a tank that's on the floor and you need a canister filter, use a filter that's got the motor at the bottom, but then don't put sand in it, or you might have some issues. Now there's some things about this filter. One thing is, I've marked which side the intake and outtake go in. I often have this problem, and Alan has this problem. This canister is square, or basically square, with rounded corners. It's very easy to put the media baskets back in the wrong position, and then you go to put the lid on and you can't. And now you got to take it all apart and take all the baskets back out so that you can turn them 90 degrees and put them back in again. So even though the baskets will go in any way you want, there is only one or two ways that you can put these in. So I just got finished cleaning out the media, and I'm going to get the baskets and show you and put them back in here. These are the baskets for the Marineland 360. This is the basket that goes on the bottom. As you can see, I've already broken the handle. One problem with these baskets, particularly the bottom one, it's easy to get the first couple of baskets out, but if you still have water in the canister, the bottom basket is basically held in by suction. The water does not pass around the outside of the basket so that it's easy for you to pull out. You can see the bottom of this is solid. There's no holes to let water pass through. So it's very difficult to pull it out until you dump all the water out. So one of the times I ended up breaking the handle. Still usable, still works, still a great deal at your Aquarium Society auction. One thing you might not know is if you get stuff stuck in the impeller or underneath this grate does come out. You have to lift the handle all the way up and pull on the intake tube, and you will be able to get this out and clean out whatever fell down in there, and clean the grate if it's clogged up with gunk. When you put it back in, there's a little groove on the intake that fits on a tab in here, and sometimes it's a little tricky to get back in. But it's rare that you're going to be taking that in and out. That doesn't happen often. It comes with two sponges, two coarse sponges that fit in here. And you have to have ones that are cut out with a hole to fit the intake tube. So that's a bit of an issue if you're trying to customize your filter. You might not, it makes it a little more difficult to just buy anything off the rack and be able to just, from any other brand, and be able to just put it in here. You're going to have to cut a hole, and you might have to cut little notches to fit where the handle goes. Of course, you're going to have to round the corners, even though it's almost square. So now I'm going to make sure I put this back in the right spot. There's my mark. There's my intake tube. This goes in there. This is four baskets. My next one, I have this pumice stone, or it's called Sea-Can Matrix. In between each basket, there's a little rubber gasket that's, I'd say, like U-shaped. It fits over the intake tube on each layer, and it's very easy to lose these. When you pull the baskets out, you got to make sure to see if that rubber gasket is still hanging onto the underside of the basket. If not, it may have fallen into the next basket, and it's very easy when you're dumping the water out or taking it, the filter media, to the trash. You might lose these. And if you lose these, it seems like it ends up sucking air, and your filter isn't going to run very well. So I'm going to make sure I put this one back on the one in the bottom. Now I'm going to put this one in. And you got to make sure that they seat in there right. Sometimes I have a little trouble with these. My next basket, I'm going to put the chemical media in. Oh, got to make sure about the rubber gasket. Now I'm going to get the media. The chemical media that I'm using is a rechargeable resin. You recharge it by soaking it in chlorine bleach mixed with water, and after a couple of hours you pour the bleach water off, fill it with water, and dechlorinator. So I'm using that today. You can also use carbon or ammo chips in a bag, in a mesh bag, and put that in the canister filter. So each basket holds a lot of media, and it's nice. You can customize this. It's a little easier, but it's not the easiest one. But this one's holding 2 bags in this layer. My final layer's got some more biological media in it. It's got some ceramic rings. Oh, don't forget that gasket. As you can see, it's always a little difficult getting it to seat correctly. Now I'm going to get the filter pad. The filter pads are pre-made for the Marineland 360. They've got the hole in it and the notches. There's kind of a coarse side and a very fine side. There's been times where I haven't had this and I've used filter floss in the top instead. But these come in a 2-pack. Disappointing that it's a lot of packaging. It's a cardboard box, and a plastic wrap, and 2 of these come in it. And I think it's a lot of packaging for what it is. You'd think they could maybe put 4 of them in a box. So this fits under the handle, like so. And this goes on top. So this makes it easy for you to not use the filter pad that comes with the canister. You can use filter floss, and this will hold all your filter floss down and so that it doesn't get sucked up into the intake tube. So you can see this fits right on top, and it holds that filter pad down. So your water goes down through this tube and it comes up through the layers, and this filter pad here is basically a polishing filter pad. And you fill it up with water and put the lid on. And you got to make sure you put the lid on the correct way. Push it down. And it's a tight fit. These snap down, and then these clamps come up over the top and lock down. The handle lifts out, and then I'm going to put the hoses into this fitting right here. It has a button to prime the filter to get any air out. I'm not going to push it because unfortunately, ever since I've had these filters, that priming button gets stuck. And then sometimes you got to take a flathead screwdriver and pry the button back out. But the priming button, it does get the air out, and it does help get your filter started if it doesn't start on its own. If you need to take the lid off the filter, you pull these clamps out first, and then these smaller clamps pull out, and they help lift your lid off the canister. Now I'm going to fill this and get this ready to start on the aquarium. Alright, I've got the canister filled, and as you can see, I have it in position. These are the filter intake tubes. It's got a key, like a 2-lever latch system. So you push it down in, you turn the center key, push it down, and then you push the second one down, and now that makes the connection to the canister part of your filter. And now I'm going to plug it in. Now there's air in the top of the filter. You have to push the priming. You have to push the priming button. And like I said before, it sticks, and they've always stuck. And I have 2 of them. They both stick. So I'm hoping that this is something that they've improved with the latest version of the Marineland that they've come out with. But the filter still works. And how often do you have to push that button? Once a month? Once every other week? Depends on how often you have to clean the filter. So if your button sticks, get a flathead screwdriver. You're going to need it. Now I have to pump this. And sometimes it sticks, so you're going to have a flat-handled, a flat-bladed screwdriver to get the button back up. It's also got this latch here, but you got to stick your hand underneath the handle, lift that up, and then there's a second one here which unlocks it like a key, and then you can pull your hoses out, but only after you stop the filter. And I would recommend once a year you're going to have to replace the gasket on this because it will either leak or suck a lot of air, and you'll never be able to get it primed. And if that happens, you got to buy another gasket. And that seems to be about once a year. And that gasket goes around the entire lid. And I've tried to patch it up even with Vaseline, and that still won't get you by. You have to have a new gasket on hand if you have one of these.